The challenge for lawyers and for the law, and therefore for these institutions, is to take these new processes, these amazing innovations that are springing up all over the industry, and to map them onto the existing law. It's kind of the age-old problem of the law is lagging behind industry a little bit. And that, in some instances, that's a good thing. That means that there's a little bit more leeway to actually undertake those products. But when you boil that down, the challenge is to fit that innovation into existing regulation, or if it doesn't fit, to think about whether it is in fact doable or not, and to go and talk to regulators and to explain the underlying basis of the product to get them comfortable that there isn't any breach of the law going on, and that actually this digital innovation is compliant with existing standards and will appropriately protect consumers. I think there has been a little bit of a tendency to move ahead very quickly in some of these areas to seek to digitally transform without necessarily thinking through what those legal issues are. And inevitably, there will be a real range of legal issues with any digital transformation. Obviously, that's going to vary depending on the kind of transformation that you're looking at. But what we're seeing is some themes about the kinds of legal issues that are relevant and that are potential roadblocks or things that companies need to think about as they digitally transform. Chief amongst those is how you deal with data, particularly if you're doing so in an artificial intelligence context. So a lot of what is driving digital transformation is the collection and use of large sets of data set, big data applications, and trying to gain insights out of that data by running sophisticated AI data analytics across those data sets. Now, talk to any lawyer, particularly a privacy lawyer, and they will tell you that there's some real issues there as to how you achieve that from a privacy and data protection context, to make sure that the rights of the individuals whose data you're dealing with are appropriately dealt with. That's particularly so if, as would commonly be the case, you're using a cloud implementation to achieve some of these outcomes. And I think there's a real tension between a business that wants to run off and implement digital transformation as quickly as possible and run data analytics, and making sure that you don't trip up on those kinds of issues. Depending on the kinds of technologies you're looking at as well, there's a raft of regulation that you're going to need to deal with outside of the privacy space, outside of the data protection space, particularly if you are in a regulated industry. So if you're in financial services, there's going to be a range of pieces of regulation that you need to make sure that your digital transformation still fits within. So if you're dealing in financial services, for example, and you're trying to implement a new way of dealing with your consumer base, you're going to need to make sure that that regulation has been complied with. You understand how that applies to your new product. And in many cases, that's new ground. That's ground that, because this, by its very nature, this is innovative, these services are innovative, regulators haven't necessarily thought of the answers to these questions yet. So there's a real dialogue, I think, going on between regulators and innovators as to how the existing regulation fits onto the kinds of new product, services, activities that are going on. And different regulators are at different stages there. Some are well up the curve, some are really starting just to come to terms with how these new products and services are working. So that's a bit of a dip of the toe into that area, but really there's a huge amount there.